Hello and welcome to IAMC Radio and Podcast. Today is March 1st, 2025, and we're going to be exploring the top news headlines. We've got a mix of stories for you today, from international relations and political clashes to some surprising legal decisions, and even a quirky lottery tale.
It's definitely a day where the news cycle is reflecting the full spectrum of human experience.
Let's jump right in with the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, which continues to be front and center. The meeting today between U.S. President Trump and Ukrainian President Zelenskyy at the White House was, to put it mildly, tense. Sources are painting a picture of a very heated exchange.
Yes, the reports highlight a fundamental difference in their positions on the war with Russia. President Trump is advocating for a negotiated truce, even suggesting Ukraine might need to make concessions. Zelenskyy, on the other hand, is firmly against negotiating with Putin, calling him a killer, and stating that such talks are simply not an option.
And he didn't just say that, did he? Zelenskyy actually showed reporters images of the devastation caused by the war, really emphasizing the human cost of this conflict. He also pointed out that Russia has broken ceasefires numerous times, which raises serious doubts about whether a negotiated settlement would even hold.
That's a key point. Zelensky's argument is that a ceasefire without strong security guarantees would leave Ukraine incredibly vulnerable. He's essentially saying, we've been fighting this hard, we can't just give up now.
It sounds like the tension really escalated when President Trump accused Zelenskyy of being ungrateful, and even of gambling with World War III. He even suggested that continued U.S. support hinges on Zelensky's willingness to negotiate.
This is where the implications for the future of the conflict and potentially the global power dynamic become really interesting. You have Trump, known for his deal-making approach, pushing for a swift resolution, while Zelenskyy, who has become a global symbol of resistance against aggression, is holding a firm line. This difference in approach could have significant consequences.
Zelenskyy did clarify his position after the meeting, stating that Ukraine does want peace, but is insistent on a just and lasting peace with solid security guarantees. He also emphasized the international support Ukraine has received, particularly from European leaders.
It seems like this clash between Trump and Zelenskyy could have ripple effects far beyond the White House. It raises questions about the future of U.S. involvement in the conflict, the potential for escalating tensions with Russia, and the broader implications for international alliances and global security.
Switching gears now to another area of international relations. French President Macron isn't feeling very optimistic about U.S.-EU trade relations after his own meeting with President Trump. He expressed very little hope on the issue of tariffs, and specifically mentioned his concerns about Trump's proposed 25% tariff on European Union cars.
This is significant because a 25% tariff on EU cars would be a major blow to the European auto industry. It could also trigger retaliatory tariffs from the EU, potentially leading to a trade war that would harm both economies.
And adding fuel to the fire, President Trump made a surprising move by cutting aid to South Africa and offering to accept white Afrikaners as refugees. He cited claims of land seizures and persecution as the basis for his decision.
This has sparked a wave of diverse reactions in South Africa. Some are calling it ridiculous and lame, while others see it as a potential opportunity. It's important to remember the historical context here, the legacy of apartheid, and the ongoing debate surrounding land reform in South Africa.
Quotes from South Africans in the news paint a complex picture. Some believe that Trump is being misinformed about the situation, while others are questioning why anyone would want to leave such a beautiful country.
This move by Trump adds a new layer of complexity to U.S.-South African relations. It also raises questions about his motives and the potential impact of his rhetoric on racial tensions and political dynamics, both within South Africa and internationally.
Now let's turn our attention to Nigeria, where the ECOWAS Court, which is the regional court of the Economic Community of West African States, has dismissed a case filed by the family of MKO Abiola. They were seeking justice for the assassination of his wife, Kudirat Abiola, which happened back in 1996.
The court ruled that the applicants in the case didn't have the legal standing to sue on behalf of Mrs. Abiola's estate. This is a setback for the family's long fight for justice. It also highlights the complexities of pursuing legal action through international courts.
It's a reminder that the wheels of justice can turn very slowly, especially in cases that span across national borders. Meanwhile, back in Nigeria, a dispute over seating arrangements in the Senate is making headlines. Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan is refusing to move to the seat that was assigned to her.
Senator Natasha has publicly accused Senate President Godswill Akpabio of gender bias and even sexual harassment. This incident shines a light on the challenges that women, particularly those in politics, often face in environments that are traditionally male-dominated.
Adding another layer to this controversy, Senator Ireti Kingubi, while acknowledging that the Senate isn't perfect, when it comes to gender equality, believes that Senator Natasha is not following the rules. It's a situation that raises questions about the procedures and power dynamics within the Nigerian Senate, and the broader issue of creating more inclusive and respectful political spaces.
It's certainly a complex situation with no easy solutions.
Let's unpack this clash between Trump and Zelenskyy a bit further. It feels like there's more going on here than just a disagreement over strategy. What do you see as the underlying dynamics at play?
What's fascinating here is the stark contrast in their leadership styles and approaches to the conflict. You have President Trump, who is very much a pragmatist, focused on deal-making and finding a quick resolution. On the other side, you have President Zelenskyy, who has emerged as a symbol of defiance and resilience in the face of Russian aggression.
Zelensky's no compromise with the killer stance is resonating with many people. He's captured the world's attention and garnered support, especially from those who see Putin as a threat to global security.
Exactly. His unwavering stance, however, puts him at odds with those who are prioritizing a swift end to the war, even if it means concessions. Trump's push for a negotiated settlement reflects a growing weariness with the conflict and a desire to avoid further escalation.
But Zelenskyy argues that any ceasefire without strong security guarantees would essentially leave Ukraine vulnerable and open to future attacks. It's like he's saying, we've fought this hard, we can't just leave ourselves exposed.
And he's not alone in that sentiment. Many European leaders have expressed their support for Zelenskyy and emphasized the need for a peace agreement that guarantees Ukraine's sovereignty and security. This clash highlights the tension between those who see diplomacy and compromise as the path to peace, and those who believe that standing up to aggressors, even at a cost, is crucial.
It raises a vital question for the international community. How do we balance the desire for peace with the need to defend democratic values and territorial integrity?
It's a question with no easy answers, and it's one that will likely continue to shape global politics for years to come.
Now, shifting our focus to Macron's concerns about US-EU trade relations, it's clear that economic anxieties are on the rise. It feels like we're teetering on the edge of a trade war, which, as you mentioned earlier, would have negative consequences for everyone involved. What are the key factors driving this tension?
There's a rising tide of protectionism with both the US and the EU trying to protect their own industries and jobs. The US, under Trump's America First policy, has been very assertive in using tariffs as leverage to renegotiate trade deals.
Macron's concern about the potential 25% tariff on European cars is a big deal. That would be a significant blow to the European auto industry.
Absolutely. And it could easily lead to retaliatory tariffs from the EU, which would then set off a chain reaction of economic disruptions across the globe. This trade dispute reflects a deeper anxiety about the shifting landscape of global economic power.
The rise of China as a major economic force is creating new challenges and uncertainties for both the US and the EU.
They're both trying to adapt to this new reality, but their approaches often differ, leading to friction and disagreements. And then you have Trump's decision to cut aid to South Africa and offer refuge to white Afrikaners, which adds another layer of complexity to this global power dynamic.
It's a move that has definitely sparked a lot of debate. Some see it as a cynical ploy, while others believe it reflects a genuine concern for the well-being of white Afrikaners. It's hard to ignore the historical baggage and racial tensions that this situation brings up.
What's striking is how this move taps into historical narratives and anxieties. By raising concerns about the treatment of white Afrikaners, Trump is appealing to a specific segment of his base who view the world through a particular lens.
And the reactions within South Africa itself show how deeply divided the country still is on issues of race and inequality.
This situation underscores the power of language and how it can be used to shape perceptions and influence political agendas. The way we frame issues, the words we choose, can have a profound impact, especially when dealing with sensitive topics like race and identity.
Turning back to the legal cases, we discussed both the Kudirat Abiola case and the controversy in the Nigerian Senate raise important questions about justice accountability and fairness within institutions.
The dismissal of the Abiola case is a stark reminder that the pursuit of justice can be long and arduous, often hampered by legal technicalities and jurisdictional issues.
It's particularly disheartening for the family who have been seeking accountability for Kudirat Abiola's assassination for decades.
The incident in the Nigerian Senate highlights the ongoing struggle for gender equality in politics. Senator Natasha's allegations of bias and harassment, whether proven or not, bring to light the barriers that women often face in male-dominated spaces.
It underscores the need for more inclusive and respectful political environments where everyone feels safe and empowered to participate.
Achieving true equality requires more than just laws and policies. It requires a fundamental shift in attitudes and behaviors.
Speaking of challenging assumptions, the case of the 14-year-old boy sent to boarding school in Ghana brings up difficult questions about parental authority and a child's right to have a voice in decisions that affect their lives.
It's a case that forces us to grapple with the complex issue of balancing parental rights with a child's best interests, especially when those interests might be at odds.
The judge's decision, while based on concerns for the boy's safety, also highlights the potential for a child's wishes to be overridden by parental choices. It raises ethical and legal questions about how we define a child's best interests and who gets to make those decisions.
It's a delicate balance, and there are no easy answers.
On a lighter note, let's revisit that French man who decided to share his lottery winnings with the thieves who stole his credit card. It's such a refreshing story of unexpected generosity.
It's a reminder that even in the face of adversity, there's always room for compassion and empathy.
His willingness to see the situation from the thieves' perspective and acknowledge the role they inadvertently played in his good fortune is quite remarkable.
It's a feel-good story that reminds us of the power of kindness and the unexpected ways in which our lives can intersect.
It's a nice counterpoint to some of the heavier news we've been discussing.
It certainly is. It's a reminder that even in a world that can often feel dark and divided, there are still glimmers of hope and humanity.
Yeah, it really is. It's amazing how these stories, though seemingly unconnected on the surface, all weave together to paint a picture of the world we live in.
Exactly. We've gone from the battlefields of Ukraine to the halls of government in Washington and Nigeria, and even to a heartwarming lottery story in France. And what connects them all is the human element, the choices we make, the values we uphold, the challenges we face, and the unexpected moments of grace that remind us of our shared humanity.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the constant flow of news. But I think it's crucial to step back and look for these connections, these underlying themes that help us make sense of it all.
I completely agree. Today we've explored the complexities of power dynamics, the ongoing pursuit of justice and equality, and the ethical dilemmas that arise in our personal and political lives. And we've seen how individual stories can reflect these larger global trends.
So for you listening, what resonates with you from all of these stories? What are the key takeaways that you'll be pondering?
Perhaps it's a reminder to stay informed, to be discerning consumers of information, and to always consider multiple perspectives. The world is rarely black and white, and understanding the nuances of complex situations is essential.
It's also a call to action, isn't it? To be aware of the forces shaping our world, both positive and negative, and to find ways to engage in a way that aligns with our values.
Absolutely, whether it's through supporting a cause, engaging in meaningful conversations, or simply making choices that reflect our principles, we all have a role to play in shaping the world we want to live in.
Well, that about wraps it up for us today. Thanks for joining us for this exploration of today's top news headlines. We'll be back soon with more in-depth discussions on the stories that matter. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay curious. Thank you for listening to the today's top news headlines on IAMC Radio and Podcast.